Yo, guys, I'm at this event and there's Ferraris and Lamborghinis here. And I'm like, wow. And I wasn't invited, so I'm just hanging out in the parking lot looking at the cars. And I'm like, wow. And there's a lot of kids here and they're all millionaires. And I'm like, wow. And then one of these millionaire kids, he came up to me and he was like, hey, man, I don't even know you, but can you tell me how to get rich? And I'm like, wow, wow, this kid's a millionaire and he's asking me how to get rich. Wow, 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 wow. And so I was like, easy, 3 steps, break it down like this. Step one, I wasn't even invited, but I'm gonna sneak in. How will I do it? Well, that leads me to step two. I'm wearing cool looking glasses. I'm talking kind of stupid. And I'm acting like I'm young and rich, even though I'm probably like 50 years old because I never say what my age is. And step three, well, I already gave you guys too many secrets. For step three, you'll have to subscribe. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Too many secrets. Gotta go, gotta go. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to Ala's World of Finance. In this quick video, well not a quick video, it's probably going to be a long video to be honest, but in this video we're doing a weekly update on the stock market and we're mostly looking at trendy stocks, but these are really the stocks that I look at constantly. And I've added a couple this week, Ford and Cemex, because a couple of people asked for that. But if you guys ever have a stock that you want me to include, make sure you leave a comment and I'll be sure to include it. And then I've also done individual stock videos on a lot of these, so I'll leave links to those videos in the description. And if you're new, please subscribe. But let's go ahead and get started. So I got these percentages from marketwatch.com, and we're basically going to look at some of their numbers, and I'll give kind of a quick little detail on each one, but I won't go too in depth because obviously that would take forever. But let's go ahead and get started. So Nintendo is my biggest stock right now. I have most of my money in Nintendo, and it's doing very well. I'm up around $2,000 on Nintendo, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for me it's a lot because I'm a grad student and you know how much school costs, and so I don't have a lot of money, and so $2,000 is like a lot of profit for me. So I'm really happy about everything with Nintendo, and I'm still holding Nintendo because we still have to wait for E3, which is going to be in June, and if Pokemon gets announced for the Nintendo Switch at E3, then I could see the stock going up even more. But a lot of analysts have been changing their ratings from hold to now buy and strong buy. And it's just kind of funny how analysts do these things. I feel like analysts never, they probably don't even know much about video games, and they probably don't even really know what's going on with Nintendo because they wait for something to be a success and then they'll say, oh, now it's a buy, now it's a strong buy. And it's like, the stock has already gone up a huge amount and now they're telling you to buy it. Well, you should have bought it like a while ago. I mean, you can see they're green across the board. For the week, they're up almost 10%. For the month at 18%. For the last 3 months, 43%. And year to date, almost 45%. And so what I did was I saw that the Nintendo Switch was coming. As soon as I knew all the details about the Nintendo Switch to know what kind of product it was, I immediately knew that it was going to be a success because I know the gaming market. I'm a gamer. I like to play video games. I'm not like a hardcore gamer, but I like video games, so I know about it. So that's kind of the advice that I usually give is try to invest in stocks where you actually know the products and things like that, because analysts, they may give you advice a little bit too late. They might tell you to buy stock when it's already really high. Now, I think Nintendo could still be going up because, like I said, if Pokemon gets announced, that could really help it. But what happened with Nintendo, especially this week, up almost 10%, is that Best Buy and GameStop, they've been releasing their numbers, and their numbers have surprised a lot of people because they were expected to have low numbers with their video game sales and all that. But they actually had really good numbers, and it was because of the Nintendo Switch. And they mentioned that in the earnings call. I'm not just making that up. They mentioned it in the earnings call. So the Nintendo Switch is doing really well. Now, GameStop stock still went down, and we'll talk about it, but that's for different reasons. But the Nintendo Switch, huge success, doing extremely well. All of their video games are like top sellers on Amazon. You could look it up, and it's a great stock, and I really like it still. However, if Pokemon does not get announced, then I start looking at all my different options. But if Pokemon gets announced, I will definitely still be holding Nintendo and waiting for that Pokemon impact to really help the stock go up even more. And I could see it going up dramatically more. But I'll make an update video later. I don't want to waste your guys' time. So let's talk about AMD. Now, AMD, I recently made an update video where I talked about all their products that are coming out, and it was a really fun video. So if you guys want to look at it, you should. But for they've been having bad numbers, so they're red across the board. For the week, they're negative 3.59%. For the month, negative 17%. Last 3 months, negative 22%. Year to date, negative 3%. Now, in probably like a year's worth, they're still up massively, but for the last few months and stuff, they've been going a little negative. And we really have been seeing that trend since they had their earnings call, and that's kind of been hurting them a lot. And ever since then, it's been a little volatile, and we've seen it kind of bounce back up a little bit and just kind of move around a little bit. But I'm still holding my AMD stock, and it's really for the reasons that I mentioned in that update video where I talked about all their products. They are, at least from what I've seen, their products are really destroying a lot of the competition in terms of performance. Now that isn't to say that their competition isn't going to come out with products that will destroy them back. I mean, obviously NVIDIA and Intel, they're obviously coming out with products too, right? But if you ask me, is AMD doing what they need to do to be competitive? I would say yes, they're doing what they need to do. A lot of people think that AMD needs to like destroy Intel or that they need to destroy NVIDIA. And it's just not true. They don't need to beat them. They need to steal some of that market share. There's a big difference in my opinion. I'm not saying you guys are wrong. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but I'm just saying that AMD still has potential. I think a lot of people are overlooking the fact that AMD wasn't even present in the server market, and they're coming out with all these great products and the Epic, and then they've also announced other stuff too in the GPU market and the Vega chips and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, my point is I'm holding AMD stock for right now because I think it still has potential. I'll be a little quicker on the other stocks, so don't worry guys, it's not going to be a humongous video. But BlackBerry, I still like BlackBerry. It's still one of my favorite stocks. They still have a lot of potential to grow, but they're already up quite a bit, so they may be a little high right now, but they still have a lot of good things coming up. I don't like their recent phone release. I don't think the phone is going to do well, but that's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. But for the week, up 7%. For the month, up 18%, almost 19%. Last 3 months, up almost 57%. And then year to date, up around 61%. And I wish I would have invested in BlackBerry a while ago because they're obviously having great numbers. And I really started looking at BlackBerry about 3 months ago, and I really wanted to invest in it and I didn't, and I hugely regret it. So I recently started investing in it, and I'm obviously still having some profits here, but anyway, BlackBerry. Now let's look at Wynn. So Wynn Resorts is another stock that I really like. It's one of those stocks that I kind of like for the long term. I don't mind holding because they still have a lot of stuff coming out with that resort in Vegas, and then they've got the Boston hotel there, and then they're doing a lot of stuff in Macau. So Wynn has a lot of, I guess you could say, sort of diversification in the sense that they're kind of spread out a little bit in different locations. And so I really like Wynn, and anyway, I'm a fan of Wynn. So for the week, up around 3%. For the month, up around 2%. Last 3 months, up 33%. Year to date, up 45%. So Wynn has just been on fire as well, been doing very well. GoPro is a stock that I'm sick of seeing red. I've mentioned it before. It's one of my stocks that I've had for a little while now. And it seems like every time I check, it's always red. But for the week down 1.41%. For the month, actually up 1.82%, which I didn't really notice because I don't know, my GoPro stock just seems to always be negative. But for the last 3 months, it's down 10.92%, and then year to date down 3.56%. Now GoPro, I think, doesn't deserve those numbers. I think they've been doing fairly well. And I think that if they do well in the next earnings call, which I will absolutely make a video about, and it'll be a very fun video, but in the next earnings call, if they have good numbers there, and then hopefully the earnings call after that, I think we could really start to see their stock rise. Now, Disney is another stock that I really like, but I've been seeing some poor numbers from them in my stock, and so I'm hoping that it bounces back. But Disney has been struggling a little bit, and it's really because of ESPN and what's going on with ESPN and television, and people are kind of leaving television, and there's a lot of concerns there. But I still like Disney for the Marvel universe, the Star Wars universe. I like them for Disneyland, for their other resorts that they have. So they still have a lot of positives. But for the week, up 0.83%. For the month, down 6.22%, which really reflects on my stock because that's sort of when I started investing. So I'm down on Disney. For the last 3 months, down 1.75%, and then year to date up around 4%. Apple is another stock that I really like, and I actually had to sell it. I sold it like, I think yesterday I sold Apple, and I was so sad to sell it because I loved my Apple stock, but my summer tuition is really expensive for my school, and I needed like another $5,000, and so I had to sell my Apple stock, unfortunately. But Apple is a stock that I really like, and they still have the next iPhone coming out, which should be a revamped version. So I am a believer in Apple, just my opinion. For the week, up 0.36%. For the month, up almost 7%. Last 3 months, up around 12%. And year to date, up around 32 to 33%. So really good numbers from Apple. And they've also, there's been some, I don't want to get too in depth, but there's been some reports of them growing their market in, I believe, India. And so that you could really see some positive numbers if they can make some deals in India and different things like that. They may be manufacturing phones there and selling them at a discount, which would give them a much bigger market share, which would really help them out a lot. Now, Snapchat, for the week, up around 6%. For the month, down 5.9%, almost 6%. And then last 3 months and year to date, we don't have that information, but Snapchat has obviously bounced back. They had that dip and then they bounced back. So Snapchat is just one of those stocks people have different opinions on. Some people really like it, some people hate it. But Google for the week, they're up 4%. For the month, up 7%. Last 3 months, up around 17%, and year to date, up almost 26%. So Google is one of those stocks that I would love to have. I would love to just throw money at, but it's so expensive. One share is almost like $1,000. So Google is just really expensive. But I love what they're doing with all across the board with Android, with Google Search, Google Maps. They really have no competition with Google Search and Google Maps. I think the only competition would maybe be like Bing Search and Bing Maps from Microsoft, but the only time I used those was when I was using Windows Phone, and nobody's even using Windows Phone anymore, so they really don't have much competition there. So I really love Google, and for a lot of other reasons as well. Amazon is another stock that I really like. They have a very high PE ratio, obviously, but Amazon, the thing about Amazon is that I like their business strategy because they operate at a low profit margin, and they kind of do this to take out other companies. So, people are afraid of Amazon because of their really high PE ratio, but what does that even matter? If they're taking out all the competition, eventually it's just going to be Amazon, and then you're going to see higher profits. It's a little debatable, I guess. I could see both sides, but I just, in the long term, I still really like Amazon. And they've been having great numbers. For the week, up almost 4%. For the month, up close to 8%. For the last 3 months, up almost 18%. And year to date, up around almost 33%. So good numbers from Amazon and taking out a lot of companies. Starbucks, for the week, they're up around 3%. For the month, up around 5%. Last 3 months, 10%. And year to date, 14%. Starbucks is another stock I like. I had to recently sell it because I needed the money, but not a bad stock, and it's just one of those. Ford is a new one that I've included in this week's update, and I just recently made a video on Ford. I'm not a huge believer in Ford, to be honest, but they have had a lot of loss in their stock price. So if you're looking for a dip, if they'll be bouncing back, you could maybe look at this as a little bit of a dip. But for the week, they're up 0.55%. For the month, down around almost 5%. Last 3 months, down around 12%. Year to date, up almost 8%. And they've been making some managerial changes in upper management, trying to show investors that they're really dedicated to autonomous driving and electric cars and things like that. But we'll have to see if they can catch up. All the other car companies seem to be beating Ford at the moment. Tesla is really the future there in the car industry, in my opinion. For the week, up 4.6%. For the month, up 3.5%. Last 3 months, up 26.5%. And year to date, up around 52%. So Tesla is a bit high right now. I would like to have stock in Tesla, but they're pretty expensive and it's gone up a lot. So I'm not buying Tesla, to be honest. Netflix. I really like Netflix because I don't know if you guys even noticed this, but recently they just announced that Castlevania is going to be a show on Netflix. It's like a cartoon show, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with video games. I feel like I talk about video games a lot in my videos, and most of my audience probably doesn't even play video games because every time I bring up a stock in video games, or every time I make a video on video games, I feel like, oh, I'll probably get some comments from people saying like, hey man, I'm a gamer too, or like, oh, what consoles do you play and stuff like that. And I get complete silence. Like nobody leaves a comment about video games or anything. So I get the feeling that none of my viewers are video game players. But anyway, Castlevania was a video game. They're making a show on Netflix. There's been rumors about Star Wars stuff coming to Netflix. So I still really like Netflix. For the week, up around 3%. For the month, up around almost 7%. Last 3 months, up 13%. Year to date, up around 31%. Now, Facebook is one of those stocks. It's a good stock, but you know, okay, when talking about Facebook overall, just actual like Facebook.com, I've been using it less and less and less. And I don't know about you guys, but every time I log into Facebook, it's like I'll be having a nice day, you know, just going about my day, having a nice happy day, and then I'll log into Facebook and all I see is everybody fighting and arguing about politics, about social issues, about who knows what, and everybody's just constantly fighting and attacking each other, and it's like, and then my day is like ruined. So I don't even like to log into Facebook. I don't like to see all the negativity. I'd rather just stay away from it. So I think that's kind of a problem with Facebook, and I think that's the reason why some of their numbers are decreasing, because at the end of the day, I feel like people have a better day when they just avoid Facebook. But they obviously have other stuff. Instagram is a huge success, so they have other things going for them. But for the week, up around almost 3%. For the month, up around 1%. Last 3 months, up around 12%. Year to date, up around 32%. Okay, Microsoft. Microsoft is up 3% for the week. For the month, up around 2%. Last 3 months, up around 8%. Year to date, up around 12%. So green across the board. I like Microsoft. They're doing a lot of things. They've got the Scorpio coming up. They should be talking about it at E3. So in just a couple weeks here. So that'll be really interesting to see what happens with the Scorpio. But and they've also released the new Surface Pro, which would have been the Surface Pro 5, but they're just calling it Surface Pro 2017, I believe. And so we'll have to see how the numbers come out for that one. But Surface Pros are usually pretty expensive, so I don't know how many people will buy it. But all right, so NVIDIA. Okay, I think I pronounced it right this time. Last time I said NVIDIA, which is like the cream, but I don't think I made that mistake this time. So NVIDIA. NVIDIA is obviously a great stock. They make the processor for the Nintendo Switch, and they've even talked about it in their earnings call. So it's not like a minor detail. It's a big deal. They obviously have stuff going on with Tesla. They obviously have a lot of stuff in the GPU market and other markets as well. NVIDIA, just a great stock overall. I really like NVIDIA, but they are very high at the moment, and I wonder if maybe they're priced a little bit too high. But for the week, up around 4%. For the month, up around 35, almost 36%. That is crazy, guys. That is a huge number for the month. Last 3 months, up around almost 40%, and then year to date, up around 32%. Take-Two Interactive Software, that's the game publishers that make Rockstar games like Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, NBA 2K. They've got the NBA 2K game coming out for the Nintendo Switch. They announced in their last earnings call that they're delaying Red Dead Redemption. So, and stock kind of reflected that a little bit, kind of went down a little bit, but then it like bounced right back and actually went up a lot. So it's kind of weird. I don't know exactly why they did so well, but they had good earnings, they had good numbers, and they've got a lot of potential. Red Dead Redemption looks like it's going to be a great game, a big seller. NBA 2K will do very well on the Nintendo Switch, so they've got a lot of positives. Up around 14% for the week, very high. For the month, up around 22%. 3 months, up around 33%. And then year to date, up around 56%. So very good numbers from Take-Two. GameStop. GameStop is actually doing really bad despite having pretty good numbers in the earnings call, but it's because investors just don't trust GameStop, and I don't blame them. GameStop is really falling behind Best Buy and Amazon when it comes to video games. And GameStop is not diversified, which is the problem. Sorry guys, I need a little drink of water here. GameStop is not very diversified, so they heavily rely on video games, they heavily rely on used games, And how are you going to sell used games when most games are becoming digital now? Not most games, but a lot of games are becoming digital now. So as we make that transition, that's going to really hurt them. And then Amazon is a beast and growing with huge discounts on video games, 20% off on video games. A lot of other shops actually buy their video games from Amazon and then sell them at a higher price. So you can see that that's a good deal. Best Buy also offers 20% off. And GameStop, it's like, I don't even know what their deals are. They don't even, I don't know, they suck at advertising, to be honest, because I don't even know what their deals are. I don't know what kind of discounts I get with Amazon. I actually have their gaming membership and I still don't even know what type of benefits I get because they don't advertise it at all. And I don't believe I get any kind of discount unless I do kind of like, you know, certain deals where I trade in something, which I'm not going to do. But I just have their membership for the magazine because I really like the magazine. But for the week, down around 8%, despite having really great numbers because of the Nintendo Switch, still down for the week. For the month, down 2%. Last 3 months, down 15%. Year to date, down 12%. Bob Evans Farms. This one is that stock that had to do with the $7.50 special dividend, which I've been making a couple videos on recently. Sorry, excuse me, guys. Which I've been talking about recently. And the thing with that one is that the stock, obviously, the stock went up a lot, getting closer to the ex-dividend date, and then it dropped right after. So down almost 3% for the week because of that dividend getting paid out. And then for the month, up 4% because of the dividend coming up. And then 3 months, up 22%, year to date up 30%. But those videos I made were pretty interesting. So if you guys want to check those out, it's very interesting. I made a play for that 750 stock dividend, and it didn't really work in my favor. So you should probably check out that video. It's kind of interesting. SMX, last one here. So SMX, this is one that a viewer wanted me to talk about a little bit. I'm actually working on a video, so I'll have that up hopefully this upcoming week here. But for the week, down almost 2%. For the month, down 5%. Last 3 months, up 2%. And year to date, up 8.5%. SMX is interesting because I believe they're Mexican based, and it's like it's a cement company, building materials and things like that. And recently they've talked about, I'm sorry guys, microphone. Recently they've talked about the wall that Trump wants to build on the border of Mexico and USA. And they've said that they will not take part in building that wall, but if any of their clients needs materials from them, they will still supply the materials. So you would think that, okay, like their stock may suffer because of that, but then again, they're still going to supply materials, so their stock could still do well from that if the wall ever gets built, whenever that happens, or what happens with that. But anyway, kind of maybe a little controversial stock, but that's that one. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Sorry guys, I'm a little out of breath. It's hot here. I live in California, and I have the windows open. My neighbors probably think I'm crazy because they're hearing me doing these videos. But it's hot over here in California, so I'm just trying to stay alive. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you all have a wonderful, beautiful day. Take care.